Hello, hello. Welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions podcast. I am solo today, you guys. Laura is having all kinds of connection issues with her interwebs. Some weather over there affecting her connectivity. So bear with me today as I am going solo. I can't remember the last time I was by myself. But today we have a fabulous guest today. I'm going to skip, I'll do a quick introduction. If you do not know me and you do not know the podcast, I'm Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions. And Laura Brown of ODAA, virtual assistant, do really similar things. And we connected back in 2020, I believe, and began to started our relationship. And learned fairly quickly that we were seeing a gap in what female entrepreneurs, as far as representation, like authentic representation. So that's why we started the podcast, was we wanted to create a place, a community, and a space for female entrepreneurs to come see authentic, real businesswomen out there doing their thing, and be vulnerable and honest with each other about the challenges and how we overcome them. So that's what we're about here today. We have a fabulous guest, and I'm going to share a little bit about Marilyn Rosa-Green, and I hope I didn't totally botch your name there, Marilyn. I'm going to bring you up here. Did I say it right?
Marilyn Rosa-Green.
Great. Marilyn is an executive coach and HR strategist specializing in food and beverage manufacturing expansion planning. Marilyn combines her deep expertise in HR and clinical mental health counseling to foster positive organizational changes. Her educational background includes bachelor's in psychology, say a master's in human resources management, and a master's in education and clinical mental health counseling. Her proprietary manufacturing success accelerator program has transformed team dynamics by addressing challenges like lack of accountability, unhealthy culture, ooh, girl, been there, high turnover, and communication breakdowns. This innovative four key system not only optimizes frontline leadership and talent acquisition, but also enhances training and career development and initiatives. Maryland's holistic approach has empowered organizations to shift towards cultures of people centric and transformational leadership to achieve high engagement and sustainable growth. Outside of her professional endeavors, she enjoys a peaceful life on her Kansas farm with her family. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. And so today, as you can tell from the title, today we are talking about how to um, what's the word? It's a buzzword, leverage, but that kind of is adequate, right? Leverage this vulnerability, and persevere, like being authentic and vulnerable while going through shit. Okay, that's right, like true talk, real talk. And one of the stories, I loved this because I am a huge fan of J.K. Rowling as far as her journey. And so are you. And for those of you who don't know, we thought we'd do a really quick recap. If you don't know about J.K. Rowling, so she's the author of the Harry Potter series, but I almost don't know where to start, but I guess I want to start with the fact that she was rejected from Oxford University. Okay, hello, they rejected her, and that was in 1982. But then she does get um, into the University of Exeter and studies in Paris for a year. In 85, she goes on to graduate. She moves to Manchester, and she has this idea about Harry Potter, and it just comes up in her mind while she's riding the train. And I know that sensation because I used to commute on a train in St. Louis to work. And so she would come home and write about him. She'd dream about him on the train and then come home and write about him. Um, and eventually moves to Portugal. And then what else? What else? She gets married. She has children. She separates, goes through that trauma, And now she's living with her sister and her kid, her daughter. And she's back in Scotland, and she's got 3 chapters of Harry Potter. She's filed for divorce. She finishes it. So she's separated in 93, files for divorce in 94. And as anybody knows, unfortunately, these things take time. They're drawn out and awful, especially when there are kids involved. And then she finishes it the following year in 95. She's teaching and at Edinburgh University. And she sends the first 3 chapters to some literary agencies in 96. And there's one agency that requests to see the rest of it. This is when in 96, when she finally gets to sign a contract with the Christopher Little Literary Agency. And then Bloomsbury that same year buys the book for a really small amount. I don't know, 1,500 pounds. Or lira. It looks like an L. Is that lira or pounds? In 96. Do you have any idea? No.
I don't know.
Are you still in Kansas, by the way? I meant to
I
ask you
am.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. Yeah.
Cool. What else? Then then it goes on and on and on. And so she's facing a lot of different challenges, but we all know how it ends, right? So she's been writing and publishing this series for 17 years. And if not more now. And in 2023, she published The Running Grave. So, and I don't even know financially how well she's doing now, but just the fact that she had, in her childhood too, her mom was very ill. She experienced, and then her mother died during part of that period as well. So,
if I may,
mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that stand out to me about her story is that she was rejected from all these publishers as well so many times, and that when her mother passed away, she went into horrible depression, and she was also a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that she she had a lot of hardship throughout her life, and yet she was known to most of the world as an accomplished, amazing author. And so I think one of the things that draws me to her story is that there is a story behind every successful person, and
Yeah.
that it doesn't just all come easy, and it just doesn't all come from being great and accepted and embraced at everything that you do. That actually you have to fall down many times and make a lot of mistakes and experience hardship for you to really work really hard and and go through things you need to go through so that you can build that resilience, right? And so it takes some time, sometimes a lifetime, what it feels like a lifetime, right?
Yeah, it
I
feels
mean,
like a lifetime for
many,
sure.
many people that we know are when we are realizing, our true gifts and what we want to really do in life. Sometimes it doesn't happen until much later in life when we think, early in our lives, it's supposed to be when we have arrived, but yet it's when our lives begin. So it's a beautiful story. I can't say that I am genuinely like a super, super Harry Potter fan. Sorry. I love her story. My
But I
sister
love
is
her
a huge
story.
fan.
Yeah.
So shout out to my sister Tatiana. She's watched all the movies and read all the books and probably multiple times. But yeah, I just really identify with the author's story. I think is amazing.
And there are, I mean, of course, she's not the only example, but Stephen King's another one, that ended up with great success in doing what he was gifted and passionate in doing. And, that's, it's funny you said, it feels like it takes so long. And so many people so far this year, like January took 5 years to get through January. And now that we're in February, it's like, wait, we're almost halfway there. And I feel like it just started. So now it feels like things have sped up. But January took forever. And I think January took forever because there was lots of opportunities for growth. In the medical field, we used to call that OFIs, opportunities for improvement. So when mistakes happened or balls got dropped, we called it an OFI. Go report that as an OFI, because what it does is it creates an opportunities for us to reflect and look at that mistake or mishap or whatever misstep and say, okay, how could we have done this better? What could we have done differently? How could we have prevented it? Um, and and sometimes I just think I agree with you that there are steps that we have to mud that we have to go through, quagmire that we have to go through, that create and develop who we are and who we're meant to be, who we're called to be, to do the thing that we're here to do on this earth.
Yeah, it's definitely, inspirational. I think as someone who's gone through some hardship in life, just like anybody else, I think that um, as I've gone through things in life, I'm just living my life. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna get through this so I can be stronger or inspirational. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
you gotta be kidding me! One more thing,
Yes.
I don't need this right now, whatever. And then it's like I don't have a choice. I either sink or swim, and so I
Mm-hmm.
just, and it's a muscle it's like a muscle that you exercise every time something happens. Your response, your emotional response, right, or your physical ability to endure depression or whatever is going on. You build this strength within, right? And so every time something happens, it, it, it it's not like you're consciously thinking, oh, I'm stronger, I got this. It's just like it's more automatic, right? Like
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
resilience that you build, the more accessible it becomes,
Mm-hmm.
more automatic. And I think, as you become more self-aware as a person and as a professional, then you realize, oh, I can actually access this at any point. It doesn't have to come when there's a tragedy, when I'm not, when I'm lowest. It could be really at any point in life where when things they don't have to all crumble down. It could just be, right now I really need to tap into what has helped me get through things, and I really need to access this, and it becomes a bit easier for you to get through some difficult times.
Mm-hmm. That I don't remember where along the path, but somewhere along the path, somebody said, ask yourself, what is this supposed to be teaching me? What am I supposed to be learning through this trial? Or, everybody has a different word, challenge or heartbreak or whatever it is. What is the universe trying to teach me? What's the lesson here? How do I come out of this on the other side better and not bitter? Or, um, how do I, we don't, it's so much. It's like when you were saying, you're just going through stuff and you're like, oh no, not this again. But instead of being reactive, you can be proactive after the event. It doesn't have to be proactive. Doesn't mean you've been able to all of a sudden you have clairvoyance and you can see the future. Proactive is you are in control of how you are responding and not just reacting out of just an emotion or without any kind of thought or control, right?
Yeah, I call that being responsive instead of reactive.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there one instance that you can think of in your professional life that maybe one of our listeners could benefit from, where you're like, this happened and it challenged me and this is what I learned from it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've experienced burnout twice. So I definitely have learned a lot from that. And I think that there is a time where you have to um protect your environment, right?
Mhm.
There is a time and a place where you have to like just really look out for yourself, because there's no other way, right? Like if you're in a toxic work
Mhm.
environment, or
Mhm.
and then you have to decide like what's best for your mental health, because if your mental health is not taken care of, then I mean, really nothing else will really function, because even small problems will look really really big,
Will
but
feel really big.
it will feel really big. But I think at the end of the day, what I learned from those two experiences were several things, but I can tell you one thing is, before you look at your environment and the people around you, whether you have enough reasons, eh, plenty of evidence to know that there's something unhealthy, something not right about it, you always want to look at yourself first, always. Because no matter where you go and what people are around you, you're going to bring that baggage with you. You're going to
Yep.
bring your own insecurities and all the stuff that you struggle with. So before we point the finger elsewhere, that is how you grow as a leader. It's really being vulnerable and accept the things that we can't change and control, and accept that we are a human being with amazing talents, right? But also immense insecurity and
Mm.
areas that we need to grow. And that is okay. It's okay to
Yeah.
say I have
It is
insecurity.
okay.
It's okay to say, I have challenges, and I find it really hard to overcome them, or whatever. Like, it's okay to speak your truth, because the more we avoid that and the more we project what's going on with issues that we've internalized, or that we, get down on ourselves about, the more that we're going to see our environment and the people around us as unhealthy, or as areas that don't contribute to our growth, because we're not going to be attracting, right, what we need. We need to feed ourselves what we need and realize what that is, and in the process of self-discovery, before we look elsewhere. So it doesn't matter where you go, you're still going to bring that, kind of a wall that you've built to
Yeah.
protect yourself. You're still going to bring that anywhere you go. So I think that, of course, being proactive, having self-care routine, like watching out for your energy, all that stuff, that's all great. We hear that in the mainstream media, and all
Yeah.
those things are great, and I'm all for that. But I really think that real talk, though, um, we need to take a little bit more responsibility for ourselves and what we bring into, and how we have managed to allow that to happen. Not because it's our fault, but it's because it's
No.
our responsibility to make
Yes.
sure that we put ourselves around people and in places where we can thrive and we feel safe, you know. And so, yeah, I think that's one thing that I could say about that is let's look at ourselves first,
Mhm.
and yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I know it's less than 5% of the world population reports that they have no physical health issues.
Hmm.
And I don't know if there's been statistics done for mental health, but kind of doubt it. And that number has to be higher or lower,
Yeah.
actually, right? If 5% of the less than 5% of the world's population says they have no physical health issues, what percentage of the population do you believe has no emotional problems? Like, we're almost all of us mentally ill. Okay. Let's take the stigma out of it and admit the fact that we all need help with our mental health. It's not any different than taking
Yeah.
care of our physical body. Are you 100% healthy and have no health issues? Then, and 95% of the world population says nope. I would wager to say that that percentage is
Well,
probably relevant for mental health.
yeah. Well, I think that, well, I'm a trained mental health professional. I'm actually a psychotherapist, a licensed psychotherapist in Kansas. So I can tell you from a clinical perspective, that there's a difference, right? between being mentally ill and having, like mild symptoms of like anxiety or those kinds of things. So from a clinical perspective, you know, they're probably, the number isn't as high as we may think. Okay, but when we look at non-clinical, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
and
Good
we look at,
differentiation. I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
no, absolutely, because well, let me give you a statistic. It, on average, about everybody out here knows, for every three people, one of them knows someone who struggles with addiction or has an addiction, right? So just addiction alone, right, which is not necessarily specifically mental health, but is linked to mental health very much so. There's a consequence or a cause, or maybe a dual relationship. So yes, the mental health concerns are really big. I think what you're saying is, what I hear is, we have a level of emotional irregulation, right? Like we're not sure how to regulate our emotions. And sometimes we become very reactive to when people say things that we feel that are against our values, or that don't speak our truth. Like for example, something that we feel that we're taking personal, but it's because it's a triggering
Mm-hmm.
comment to us, right? And so we
Mm-hmm.
get all like, you know, like upset or down, or we shut down, or whatever the response is. So yes, absolutely. I think probably if you're a human being and you have a level of even small empathy, right? You will, struggle with that if you haven't
Yeah.
worked through that. And I absolutely think that whether you have a clinical mental health issue, I'm going to say it in quotations, like if it's
Right, right.
undiagnosed or diagnosed, I think, yeah, absolutely, everybody needs to talk to someone. Like even if a therapist, great, but if it's not a therapist, a mentor, someone, because we're
Yes.
all dealing with our own stuff. And
Yeah.
we all have difficulties. And there are
Yeah.
going to be times where we do feel down. And maybe when we feel sad, we feel that it's so unacceptable or undesirable to feel sad that we feel it's depression, but it may not even be depression.
No.
It might just be that negative thinking that we're like, I'm not supposed to be
Or
sad. I'm
it could
supposed to
be,
be grateful. I'm supposed to be, and I'm not. Like, what's wrong with me? Those
yeah.
kinds of things.
Or we could just have a bad day.
Right, exactly. It is
And
okay to have a bad
and
day.
it's okay to have a freaking bad day. We can't be
Yeah.
on 100% of the
Right.
time,
But I think we
especially,
really much put that societal pressure on ourselves
yes.
to, have it all together, to have, and us
Yep.
women, have it, do it all,
Especially.
be perfect. you know,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you can do it all. You have to be strong all the time. And
So, having been
well,
through burnout a couple of times, and we have talked about burnout quite a bit on the podcast with a
mhm.
previous guest. We've been doing it for a couple of years. Our first guest wrote a whole book on it, so we've talked about it. But everybody's journey is different. How they handle it, what happened, what triggered it, what was the catalyst that you were like, I think I might be burnt out, and then what did you do about it?
Um, well, the first time it happened, I didn't have language around it. It was actually very early. I mean, it's too early, honestly, too early in my career. Like way too early. But I only this is a thing about me, that I only know one way, and that's 100%. And that's something that I still try to figure out. I'm very passionate. I'm all in. I don't know how to be 20%. And if I'm not going to be 100%, I just can't do it. My heart's not in it. I can't do it. Right. And so that's good. And that gets me in trouble, because can you do everything 100%? And if you don't, how okay are you with that? Like, so I've worked through a lot of self-compassion with that, and grace, right?
Hmm.
Not just because I want to give my all to this job doesn't mean I have to love every single part of the job. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be at my highest inspirational, motivated self all the time. That's not possible. And so when I burned out the first time, I didn't have language around it. And what was happening is, I was saying yes to everything. I was just
Mm.
doing what was asked of me because I wanted to do the best that I could. And this was a great opportunity for me to grow. But I also didn't have, I had a bit of a micromanager, type of leader.
Oh,
First time they were being a leader, a great, amazing person. I mean, I'm still friends with this person. I like, honest to God, a great, great person. But, there was just no boundaries around when we
mm.
were communicating. And again, I just didn't know how to say no. So a lot of my own lack of awareness, right? Lack of understanding of the dynamic and potential consequences led me to that, right? And so it got to a point where I felt completely disconnected. And it's something that I work with my clients a whole lot. It's understanding when we're feeling disengaged, when we're feeling conflicted because we love what we do. We're really good at what we do. We even like the people that we work with, but somehow our heart's not in it. Like we just
Yeah.
can't, we dread going into work and we're so confused. What's happening? How did I lose myself along the way? Right. And so
Yeah.
I had to work through all of that. And I really thought at that point I was going to leave my career. Like I just thought I had to change everything because it just didn't feel right. I really thought that's it. And so then I decided to take a summer off, and I was actually a full-time nanny. This was in my early 20s. I became a full-time nanny for the summer because I was working for this family who I'm still like in touch with. This lady was so amazing to me, and she lived by the beach, and I
Mm.
could spend my days with this little beautiful boy, and I could just go to the beach every day, and I just journal, and I just relax, and I took care of my body. I went back to school to get my master's in HR, and I started to get phone calls from people that knew me from my previous job. And so then they were like, I heard you're not working. Like, we would love to interview you here. And it was so amazing because I allowed myself to be vulnerable and say, look, like I just want to take the time off. This didn't work out. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And so it just put me on this journey
Mhm.
of understanding myself. And so with the second time that I got burned out, many, many years later, it was a bit of that was circumstantial because it was COVID, and I was part of this expansion planning team, and because of the issues with um, supply chain and a lot of logistical issues and this and that, our expansion planning that was supposed to be um, throughout 5 years became like maybe 2 years. And so that means
Ooh.
that the hiring, the production, the construction, everything was just overboard, right? Everything had to be expedited, and there was just a lot of pressure. Um, and I had gotten a divorce before I took on that that assignment, and I left I'm very close to my family. They all live in the Boston area in Massachusetts, and I just really I needed a fresh start. And so slower pace in Kansas, all of that, to my surprise, with my new job, it just wasn't really that. And then there was a change in leadership. So again, like a lot of different things that were happening in my life and my career all at the same time. And so I at that point I was working towards a 10-year plan so I can become a successful consultant. And I just had to stop, and I said, I either completely burn out like I did the first time, or I can stop right now, and I know who I am. I know what
Mhm.
I want. And instead of trying to follow this perfect, plan that I created for myself, maybe I can just take a risk. Maybe I can just take a leap of faith and try it out now. And if I fail, whatever, I go back to corporate. I've done it before. I had way less experience the first time. I was able to get a
Right.
job right away, and I was successful at it. So yeah, so that's kind of what happened the second time around. I was like, okay, I learned from my first experience. I got it. I got myself. I can support myself. So that's kind of, how the second time around went, and what I learned from it. And 5 years later, here I am.
Oh, 5 years later, here I am.
Just like that.
Just like that. Well, and we know it's not just like that. I mean, that was a lot. And so you've had, so you said early, the first time was when, in the early 2000s?
Uh oh gosh. No, no. No, no, no. I'm not. I'm a little bit younger than that. Yeah, it was like 15 years ago.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um, well, I mean, technically that was early 2000s. Um,
All right, all right.
so, but I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Right. Um, but one of the things I think that sticks out is this idea that of perfection. Um, and a friend of mine, recently and has repeated it. Um, I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to say the perfect thing all the time. None of us do. And but that's the societal expectation, right? Um, because and that was another reason that we started the podcast was what we were seeing was all the Instagram successes and the six-figure successes and this success and that success. But there was no, it was all 0 to 100. There was no messy middle. We couldn't find the messy middle. We knew it was there because we were in it. But we weren't, it wasn't being modeled for us. And so that's what we're trying to do here is saying that there is a messy middle and that you're not alone. You're not alone in the messy middle. There are other people who are also going through a messy middle. There are other people who are on the other side and can say, you'll get through this. You're going to be okay. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. Or this is just one step in, in your, like, for instance, your process. 5 years later, here I am. But that 5 years, right? It was not just sitting there letting time pass while you twiddle your thumbs. There's a lot of work involved in those 5 years, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Every day is so much work, but I really do have to say that, um, you know, giving up the quote unquote benefits and the steady salary and all of that, like it's just so well worth it for my own peace of mind, my own autonomy. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and it's in my blood. It truly is. Um, and it just makes so much sense for me to do what I'm doing. And I think that yes, it's I feel like I'm only getting started. Like I really, I really believe that I'm just finally getting started. And that's crazy. That's crazy for me to say. I mean, I have a bachelor's, two master's degree. I'm working on thinking of concepts for a first book. I'm really excited about. I've been putting out new programs in the last few years. I have a small psychotherapist practice. I mean, I have a lot going on, and I've accomplished a whole lot of things. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm saying I've already done a lot of things. And it's not that I'm trying to get to the next 5 years, or it's not that I'm trying
Right.
to, check things off my list, is that I am finally able to say, I am living my life on my own terms. And I love being mindful and being present in every day that I live. And I know it's gonna come with um, small wins, big wins, challenges, bad, ugly, and that's totally
Yeah.
okay. That's life. Like I've embraced it. I'm absolutely um, more than okay with that, and that's just life. And
Yeah.
you know, you might as well enjoy it. Or you might as
Yes.
well enjoy it when you can, because things are going to happen. And so, um, can I, I don't know, work 70 hours a week, travel every month to do a speaking engagement, all that. Yeah, I could, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I've already worked, you know, 2, 3 jobs and work crazy hours. And yes, I still, get on my laptop in the evenings, but I want to do that. And I'm excited to do the things that I want to do. And when I don't really want to do something or I don't like to do something, I have to really check in with myself if it's something that is it objectively something that I just don't enjoy because of the task, or does this have something to do with how I feel about how that thing that I have to do is part of the big picture? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how objective am I really being? Am I really in my emotions, or is it just like practically, I don't want to write notes. I don't want to, whatever, like whatever the thing
Yeah.
is,
Mhm.
so and so then when I realized, oh, I just don't like to do this thing because to me it's not challenging or is boring or whatever, then I have to find ways to make it so that I can enjoy it better, or that it's more efficient, so that I don't have to jump through all the hoops.
Or,
Yeah.
uh, uh, I mean, just a revolutionary thought here.
Hmm.
Delegate it, hire help. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you have.
Yeah,
Um,
for
and
sure.
but so many women are solopreneurs. I talked to a gal recently who has this huge, huge, amazing project. And I'm like, so who's on your team? Who's helping you? She's
Yeah.
like, I have 3 people. I was like, that's awesome. We're ahead of the game here. She goes, me, myself, and I. And I was like, dang it. And so
I'll tell you what. I tell you what, that I got to that point of delegation at some point in my business, and I over delegated, if that's even possible. I went too far. I went too far to say I only want to do the things where I add value, and that's it, the things that I enjoy. And I think that's a wonderful concept, but you have to be really careful with that, because you have to do certain things that you don't like to do, because first you need to understand what they are, how to do them, so that you can train other people, or that you can scale your business properly,
mhm.
which is ironically what my background is all about: talent acquisition and training and development, right? But sometimes we're not really good at following our own
Own
advice
advice. Yeah.
until
Preach.
until we
Preach.
really figure it out. But yeah, I overdid, and I realized, I need to scale back, because things are getting out of my hand, and I became the opposite of a micromanager, because I just really was more of an anxious leader at some point in my beginning stages of being a CEO, because I just I just didn't want to be that for other people, and I went the other way, very very macro. And so yeah, it's really interesting. It's like, one advice could be great for one person in whatever time in their entrepreneurship, and it could be the worst advice for someone else, right, depending on where they're
Yes.
at and what they're
Yes.
going through. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So Laura wasn't able to join us, but she's like, me, myself, and I. That's great. As entrepreneurs, we do try to do it all, but we do need help, and we are
Yeah.
better with help. We are better with help, and that's all the way around, not just in our business, but also our mental health, our physical health, our professional health, all our
Yeah,
personal,
our
like,
relationships, yeah, all of it.
yes, yes, all of it.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's a
sometimes
big
that
one.
help, sometimes that help is not getting someone to do something for you. Sometimes it's doing something with someone,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it sometimes just getting that workout routine before the beginning of the day makes all the difference, makes you more productive, and solves the issue of you dreading doing something, or procrastinating, or whatever it is, or if you don't want to take the time to train other people, or you have all these issues about can't find the right. Sometimes it's got more psychological issues to do than anything else, and maybe talking to a therapist
yeah.
will help you.
Oh my
Like, why
gosh.
are we
Yeah.
struggling to work with other people, and why in every job that we have we see the same things happening? It's not everybody else. It's you.
Right. Yeah. We should always look at ourselves before we, and that was another thing
Yeah.
that came up earlier, that sparked a memory. And this was 20 or 30 years ago. Somebody was mad at me about something. And she was just being very accusatory and very, no, 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 no. And I said, look, I love you. I am sorry. For whatever, I don't remember what the circumstances were. I said, just remember something. When you're busy pointing that finger at me, there's 3 pointing back at you. And I hope that you will reflect on that and understand that it takes 2 to tango, right? And it wasn't meant in a like, well, it's not all my fault, it's your fault too. It wasn't like that. It was like, I have done all I can do with you, my friend. You are stuck in this mindset of accusing and blaming and not taking any responsibility. So that was one of the things you said earlier. I was like, I need to remember to bring that up. My ADD brain is working today, man. So, well, Marilyn, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and spending it with us here. And you have an offer, something free to offer to our listeners today. Would you like to tell us?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have some amazing things coming up, but I will say that I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just look me up, Marilyn Rosa-Green. And I have a wonderful newsletter called Manufacturing Mental Health. And here I talk about the intersect of HR strategy, mental health counseling, and my niche is in manufacturing, but really any business owner or any industry can benefit from all of this because I really
Absolutely.
talk about mental health and leadership and business strategy. And so in this newsletter, I always put out, I have a workshop coming up at the end of the month and it's free. So you get a lot of good bonuses and good information here. Not just reading it, but other offers and events that I have going on.
So how to stay in the loop. In the loop
Mm-hmm.
on all the things that are going on in Marilyn's world. We will drop in the show notes, we'll drop a link for that, as well as how to connect with Marilyn in all of the places. Thank you again for being with us. And
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Our announcement is be sure to check out ftcpodcast.com. Check out our community page. We are creating a membership for our listeners. It's going to be free and we're super excited about it. So go out there and get on the wait list. We are going to be looking for beta users to help us test it out before it goes completely live. So if you're interested in that, go out there and get on the wait list. And next week's guest is Hayes Shepmeyer. She is a life event transition consultant and host of the Grow My Grit podcast. She's the author of Know, Grow, and Show Your Grit, which is a self-discovery made simple. In 2019, Hayes embraced the unexpected, unnerving journey to becoming an entrepreneur. Girl, so did I. And she has dedicated her career to facilitating powerful, unconventional conversations about navigating life's obstacles with grit. Her intention is to inspire others to access and activate the mountain of resources already inside ourselves so we feel equipped to do hard things. For example, managing change. In her books and in her talks, she invites people to discover, then explore their default setting in the face of challenging situations or relationships. Her Grit Growth Guide and personal development programs are effective, proven tools for approaching obstacles with renewed passion and purpose. We can't wait to talk with her next week. I think that this will also, like our content, our guests, they self-schedule and it always works out so well. Things just flow like one topic to another, just flows so well. So I feel like this is just really going to flow really well into what we talked about today. So thank you again for listening in. We will see you guys next week at the same time. We are live Mondays at 12 Eastern.